I don't have a great game plan for Q&A because I hadn't really intended, or for fire law Q&A because I hadn't really intended to be the presenter. But I would ask that between now and break, let's have a discussion. Let's get the questions out there. Let's kind of set the stage for the rest of the day so everybody's really comfortable what we can and can't do. Or maybe there are no questions, but I would invite that right now. It's just kind of an open discussion. I'll try my best. I know Kara will help us kind of manage the questions. But does anybody come here with a burning question on fire law or what is or is not allowed, especially in regard to private land? Charlie.
I live in Brule County.
Yeah, let's do that. Yeah, thank you, Kara.
I live in Brule County. They're forever putting a burn ban on and then just forgetting about it. Do I need to go talk to the commissioners, or how do I go about this?
That is an excellent question. Okay, county commissions generally are very good at meeting on schedule, and they are good about setting short-term policy. I would say that in my experience, Charlie's experience is pretty common. Then they don't lift them, right? They maybe even set some parameters for lifting them, but then another month goes by and the fire season's over or the opportunity's over and they haven't lifted them. I don't have a great answer for that because the best system that I think I've seen, and others please jump in, is when the county commissioners rely on feedback from their fire chiefs in the counties. And as you go east, there's more fire chiefs in any given county, so there's a little bit more of a network, I think, maybe. As you kind of get further west, smaller municipalities, bigger range of the fire departments. I don't know what the system is. I don't know what the system is for every county commission to place that fire ban. Sometimes it's the emergency management officer, but not lifting them is a problem. So that's Charlie's question. Does anybody have a good answer for what might have worked in your local county for?
Charlie, come see me. I'm the emergency manager.
Could you say that? You guys, Kara, I think, mentioned this, but we are recording all this. So this is really important. There's going to be people that need to know what was said here today. So I'm just going to ask, let's have a little bit of patience when we answer because it's important. So thank you.
Charlie, come see me. I'm the emergency manager. The reason it wasn't lifted this summer is because our severe drought conditions. We have put a policy in place that we have now burn plans. You submit a burn plan. You don't have to tell me, you don't have to burn that day, that week. You just call me, and then we set up your burn plan, and then the day you burn, you call me. I call all the fire departments and dispatch. So we are working on it.
I want to make sure that that is a level of service that I think is a bit rare. If I got this right, your help to the landowner is that he gets to do one-stop shopping, one phone call to emergency management, and then you will notify the system. Over in our area, we have what's called mutual aid, and there's different varieties of mutual aid across the state. I have the benefit of being near Watertown, which is a mutual aid dispatch center. I get to call the Watertown Police Department and know confidently that dispatch goes out to where's Joe? Joe Blastic. I don't see Joe. Anyway, it goes out, or Owen, when you guys call in the Watertown. I think our district for that dispatch covers like 6 counties, doesn't it? So they all are made aware. All the sheriff's departments, all the fire departments are made aware. That didn't exist 20 years ago, so thank you for that. I think that's a model. That's a takeaway. Sean, your area?
Yeah, I would just add on to what Catherine mentioned. I really appreciate Catherine mentioning what she did, but I'm with Mid-Missouri River Prescribed Burn Association. Brule County is obviously in our, can everybody hear me? Is obviously in our burn area, and even when there are burn bans on, the burn plans that the Mid-Missouri PBA does, we do submit those to Catherine, and we found working with Brule County has been a very positive experience to get those prescribed burns done when there is a burn ban on.
So the question was, how do you get a commission to lift? I don't know that there's where you have an emergency manager that is in tune to the needs, I think that becomes easier. Catherine, is that right? Okay. What would you say as an emergency manager then, Kara, if we could get Catherine a microphone again, what would you say, what would be your advice to other emergency managers? Like, what do you think works or doesn't work for other counties that might be struggling with this issue?
I think the importance is everybody's on the same page. I've got to follow what the commission wants, but I could have just said no on the burns, but there's too much things needing to be taken care of, especially cedars. So we're all trying to work together, includes the fire departments. GF&P did a lot of burning this past summer, and they submitted all the plans for it. It makes a big difference if you have a plan in advance, so everybody knows the information we need. And the burn plans, like Missouri River's burn plans, are pretty extensive, so it's nice. There's a lot more information they give us than what we ask from the local landowner. But I think working together makes the biggest difference. We can't just say no. We have to, there's always that time you have to say yes and you have to make arrangements for it to happen.
Appreciate that. One final thing. You guys have a pretty advanced, with the Mid-Missouri in your area and with your knowledge and support of this. Have you guys ever had, say, a countywide or maybe a 4-county-wide emergency management prescribed fire coordinating meeting just at that level where you kind of bring the county commissioners of the 4 counties together and the emergency managers? Has that ever happened, or would that be a good idea? Sean?
Oh.
Kara's taking a break. I'm just kidding. You're doing awesome.
I think I can answer to this, and if I forget anything, Brad Christensen, who's also a board member with Mid-Missouri, but he's also the emergency manager for Gregory County. He's here today as well. We've never per se had a 4-county emergency manager meeting. I don't think it's been needed up to this point because I think all the emergency managers, especially in our 4-county area, have all been on the same page, just like Catherine said, working together, keeping everybody informed, and just so there's no surprises along anywhere. It's been in our 4-county area, it's been a great working relationship so far.
Okay, so I appreciate it. I think the take home on all this is because you guys still get back to the core question. If Charlie Totten is a landowner and he calls and maybe doesn't get connected in the right way, and he's told that there's a burn ban on, he might go on to something else. He might, I can't burn, I'm gonna go fix fence or whatever. So the critical question is ensuring that when a burn ban is lifted, even if it doesn't get broadcast out, that somebody that is a contact would know. And I think we've identified an issue here. I don't necessarily know if we've got the perfect answer, but is that okay, Charlie? You need her business card? All right. All right. We're about making connections. Firematch.com, right? Ever anybody use that?
I got a quick question. So my name is Tyler with Red Rock Fire. We do prescribe fire all over the place. My thing for South Dakota is variance permits. So if there's burn bans around and people come in with, qualifications and whatnot, can they get a variance permit to burn these areas, even if there's burn bans going on?
Okay, that's a loaded question. I'm going to do my best to answer it, but I'm really going to ask for others to chime in on this one. Okay, so I would say for most of the state, a burn ban is more or less initiated based on the interpretation of consistent red flag conditions, or at least coming, right? Now, we're not going to get into what it means. There's a lot of misunderstanding about what red flag is or isn't. I will say red flag is not a law. Red flag is a set of conditions interpreted by the National Weather Service to indicate fire and fuel and weather conditions are approaching extreme. It is not a law. You can burn under red flag warnings. Might not be a good idea, but that is not law. The law or the interpretation of policy comes in is when they use red flag warnings to initiate, say, such a burn ban. Now, when it comes to permitting, not very many counties in South Dakota require the issuance of a written or electronic permit per se. I know Marshall County does up in the Northeast. Raise your hand if you're in a county where you actually have to get a written permit before you light a fire. It's pretty rare, okay? So the question is, does the landowner, because they hire a professional, have any additional right or options to burn in a burn ban when they have professional assistance? Okay, I would say the answer to that can't be an automatic yes, but I also have an experience that says ask the question. I don't know with the emergency managers that we do have in the room, our county commissioners, Brad, can and do they issue a variance if you've got professional help? Does that matter, or is it? It doesn't matter. So if a burn ban is in place, you still can't just tell Charlie he can go ahead and do it. That burn ban has to be removed, and then or depends.
It's good for me to run.
The burn ban can still be in place, and it's not an official permit. You have to submit a burn plan, and you get okayed on that burn plan. It'd be great if the professional, he has a fancier plan probably than we require, but they can come into town and ask for the same burn plan. Our burn plan can usually be okayed within a half hour if it's a big, quick. I mean, we've done them in less than 15 minutes. They do the plan, we submit it to the commissioners give the okay. It can all be by a text or email. So the turnaround can be really, really quick if need be. We would
Okay.
rather have a little bit of time, so they have a little bit more time if it's an extensive burn plan to look over, what they plan on doing, what their controls are and things like that. But you can get a very quick answer when need be, but it's not an official permit, it's permission.
Okay. So the biggest takeaway to your question is that South Dakota is not organized like other states in where that's all, every county is kind of its own thing in South Dakota. There's a lot of consistency, but you do have to ask the question within the county, and ask it with some lead time. Other comments on that? I'm treading on space that I may be extrapolating a little bit. So anybody disagree with what's been said or have additional commentary on that?
I would just add real quick, for situations like that, reach out to whatever county you're in, wherever you're planning on burning, reach out to the county emergency manager for where you're at. That's the first place I would go. And they can, because like Pete said, every county is a little bit different on how they do things, how they handle their burn bans. So find your emergency manager first and they can lead you in the right direction.
Kara, how are we doing on time?
We got another 20 minutes for this,
Oh.
if we want to keep going.
Leland?
All right, Pete, this might just be something, a conversation piece, but so we think about fire and potential danger of fire and having a plan on those things, but I'm wondering if you could cover a little bit on smoke. So even after the fire's put out, if there's some lingering smoke coming into the night or whatever, as far as some regs on roads,
Sure.
smoking out a neighbor, something like that.
It's a great question. Smoke management has not entered South Dakota's fire conversation very much yet. That's not necessarily true in the Black Hills. I went in the Black Hills Fire Protection District, and the prescribed burns, say like on state land, Custer State Park in particular, would come to mind. Smoke management planning is a part of more structured prescribed fire. It definitely is a part of what we all do too, right? But what I'm trying to say is that South Dakota does not have smoke management laws in regard to air quality. Okay, I'm gonna start with that first because that's like the big picture on smoke. we can put smoke in the air and not really have to worry about it as long as we do it effectively, efficiently, courteously, etc. You're probably going to hear a little bit more about smoke from John. He might cover some of that in some of his presentation later today. So what Leland's question really is about is smoke management at the micro level within the neighborhood. And first of all, awareness is the biggest thing. Fire makes smoke. We can't ignore that. Oftentimes, I think when we plan for all the conditions, and we kind of forget that one thing is the time of the year that we're burning, air quality, the density of the air changes pretty dramatically in the evenings. And if you're doing a big fire, you just got to realize that smoke's going to settle somewhere. And I haven't seen it all, but I've seen a lot. And I've made some mistakes myself where we didn't read the tea leaves right. A couple extreme examples. We burned at Lake Cochran. If you know where Lake Cochran is in Dual County, it is a Memorial Day destination hotspot. And we burned next to Lake Cochran on Memorial Day. So there's, thousands of people using this place. And we had a little bit of a temperature inversion at night, and we put smoke. It just settled on that lake. It didn't last very long, but it was pretty embarrassing. And it was kind of, these things happen when you do hundreds of burns. Sometimes these things happen. So cognizance of that. The second was I saw a really interesting thing one time on the Big Sioux River where we put smoke in the air. It was fine, but the evening came, the river air was cooler, and basically a worm of smoke went right down the river for about 20 miles. It didn't really hurt anything. It didn't smoke any municipalities, but these things are real. Smoke settling over a lake a few years ago smoked out my neighbor's feedlot, something terrible. Hoop barn feedlot. So that smoke got in those buildings. And these were my friends, and they came over. They were hot. And I'm like, well, let's go check it out. Well, by the time we got there, it was completely clear. I'm like, what problem? We were joking, but no dead cattle. So smoke in the air is a big thing, and to be cognizant of it, and that comes with experience. And I was just going to say a bit of training, but it really comes with experience, and it really relies on those that have burned in your landscape better. There are certain things that happen in the mid-Missouri area that will not happen in the Dakota, southeast Dakota area, that won't happen up in the northwest. Smoke is funky that way. The second part of your question was dead and out. That's the key. If there's smoke, there's fire. That's just the truth. There's no getting around that. If there's smoke coming off of a burn, there is still active fire. And being due diligence on that mop-up is so important. And that's my lead-in comments, but anybody else on that?
No, I'll just echo on it a little bit. The smoke management definitely needs to be a very important and integral part of your prescribed burn plan. The plans we do for Mid-Missouri, smoke management is a very important piece of that, especially in the neighborhood. We might be burning in the middle of nowhere, not near any towns, but there are other ranches, other farms nearby, and especially if some of those people may have health problems, health issues, and you dump a bunch of smoke on them, it can be a big problem in a heck of a hurry. So it's definitely things to be cognizant of when you're doing your burn plan to make sure which direction that smoke is going. That being said, there are times when you can do everything perfectly according to your plan, and then you'll have issues with smoke. We did a burn in 2023 on the east side of the river where we didn't take into effect, we were getting wildfire smoke from all those wildfires in Canada, and that affected how our smoke lifted off of our prescribed burn. But we did mitigate for it in our burn plan because most burns that we do, depending on the fire district we're in, we have 1 or 2 trucks from that local volunteer fire department there. And when that burn took off, and when we were doing it and the smoke started settling faster than we thought, settled on a state highway, we had a local fire department out there flagging cars and managing the traffic to get them through the smoke. So just wanted, that was all emergency planning within the burn plan, so just things to consider. That's where a PBA can really come in handy when you're planning your first burn. Prescribed Burn Association.
1 second. Let's give him the mic. But on smoke, just so you know, again, this is a bit of a law session. Put smoke management in your burn plan, adhere to it, and then if something goes wrong, at least you have that to, you can't necessarily control everything, but if you can intentionally show that you had intended to mitigate that effect, that is so key to your not only feeling better about yourself, but your neighbor feeling better about it. And you can show it's like, hey, we anticipate everything that we can. This didn't go right. But if you just blow it off and don't care, you're really exposing yourself, if nothing else, to really bad neighbor relations. Craig, go ahead.
Yeah, Craig Larson, private landowner, and you cited a negligence law in South Dakota, and I'm curious, has there been any history of, number one, people being charged under that, and number two, have people been convicted under that statute?
Thanks for that question, Craig. The question again, what is the history of the enforcement of that law? Okay, that law pertains, first of all, to fire. The laws pertain to fire. So I would be remiss to say that it's never been enacted, but I think it's only been enacted where it's been intentional arson or negligence on the sense of either starting what you might say, an arson type fire, or interfering with emergency management at whatever level. Again, I'm speaking a little bit off the cuff here, but I would assume that the answer to your question is yes, it has been used. Has it been used, though, as a tool to prosecute a prescribed fire that has had a plan? And I think the answer is no. I think it has never gone that far. In fact, I'm not sure. I've heard the threats of lawsuits related to prescribed fire only rarely, I think maybe twice in 25 years. I've never heard that they've actually come to fruition. Where somebody gets hot, something goes wrong, the temperatures flare, I'm going to sue you. It doesn't happen. John and Brian will probably speak more to this across the Great Plains. I'm only trying to speak in South Dakota. I do not believe that it's ever happened. Now, civil cases, the one that I'm most aware of, and we're here to talk truth today. The prescribed fire that happened in Perkins County back in 2013 with the Forest Service, it was an escape. Okay, I'm just going to speak truth. I'm not villainizing anybody. I'm not taking sides. That fire was a planned prescribed fire that escaped, and it burned a ton of private resources, ranches, hay piles, fences. I don't know if there was loss of life on that one. Where's Ryan Beard? No, there was not. Ryan, you helped respond on some of that stuff too. So add on here. But private landowners were up in arms. Here's the federal government doing a prescribed fire and they can't control. Now there's a lot of questions about timing and the quality of the burn plan and the plan itself and the weather conditions and on and on and on. At the end of the day, the courts determined that the government was within prescription. It doesn't necessarily mean they made the right choice, but they were within prescription. And based on that, the producers up in that area got no compensation. Now you can take that for what it is. And I think I'm right? Am I not right?
They actually did get some compensation.
They did get?
I think they were litigating it and stuff, and I think they just kind of finally settled out of court.
Oh, they did, okay.
And so there was some settlements were done for the producers and stuff.
Okay. So I apologize if I was inaccurate on that. Point being, if you might say, and I'm speculating here, I'm extrapolating a little bit, but you might say that might have been a very good fodder for lawsuits, right? I mean, you lose some pretty good resources on your ranch. I'm not sure that many suits, like you say, come of it. So, best answer I have is it's rare. And especially if you follow and work within your prescription, it's rare. I will say, though, one more caveat to that. If we're going to light fires, we need to be courteous about the fact that sometimes things could go wrong. The Nature Conservancy had a very minor incident years ago where they burned like 10 extra acres. And I was a fire manager. I wasn't on the fire. I was a fire manager though, and I had to make a recommendation to our company. And I'm like, pay them twice what the rental rate is worth, pay them damages, replace all their trees, and do everything that they ask, even if it seems a little bit, you know, like overcompensation, because 20 grand to save the future of prescribed fire for other people when it was when it was clearly, you know, our fault. I'm all for that every day of the week. I think people should be, you know, I know I'm interjecting a little bit of personal opinion here, but I think we have to be responsible too. If we make a mistake, we got to own it, right? So, other questions regarding law or policy or, yeah, Russ, or was it your hand or the one? You know?
I'm Avery Thompson. I'm a recovering burn boss. I've been a prescribed fire for a large number of years. But getting back to the burn plan restrictions, each county can set their own parameters. And in Lyman County, if it's fire danger is very high or higher, you're not supposed to burn. And if you do choose to burn or need to burn, you can get an exception under those conditions. And then when the fire danger drops below very high, the ban is considered lifted. So it's just a simple call the sheriff, let them know we're going to burn, let us know when you're done, and that's about it. So really in these light fields that we got in western South Dakota, the grassland fire danger index is your best tool. There's a better tool than the drought monitor. The drought monitor is very slow moving. All the data comes in on Tuesday, the map comes out on Thursday. So best case scenario, it's 2 days behind if you're going to burn in, you know, western South Dakota. It's useful in timber, organic fields, that kind of stuff, but it's not very practical for grasslands.
I'm glad you brought that up, Avery. Thank you. So it's kind of like a caveated burn ban. You know, at the burn ban, in any given day, the burn ban adjusts to the fuel conditions. How many counties are we aware of that have anything similar to that level of practicality? That's a great practical measure, I think. You know, wildland fire danger index, or, you know, that doesn't exist everywhere across the state. But does anybody else have any kind of a practical caveated burn ban example anywhere else in South Dakota? Okay, if we don't, how do we get this information out to the other counties that, hey, let's consider this as maybe a really workable thing? Like how does that happen? How do counties, I'm asking the questions, I don't know the answer. How do you get one county commission or one county emergency manager to understand what is good and functional in another county in the relation to prescribed fire? Is there like a statewide emergency managers meeting annually or anything like that? Yes? Is this something that you would put forth on such an agenda to help our private landowners across the state? Like, I know it can't all probably happen in one fell swoop, but this is a really good example of what can make life for somebody like Charlie a little easier. Like, are we in high fire danger? And if we are, I have to maybe take additional steps. If we're not, I'm not trying to volunteer you, but where's Brad? Yeah, Brad, do you have anything to add to that, Brad?
There's a lot of counties that do already have that. The issue right now with going off of the fire danger index, grassland fire danger index, is it changes. It used to be put on in the morning, and then it would be for all day. Now it's figured hour by hour. So if somebody wants to burn at 8 o'clock in the morning, that very high fire danger might not come on until 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So it's not the perfect answer anymore.
But Brad, is it reasonable, because what still trumps all of this is making sure you burn within prescription, right?
Correct.
You know, so I think that is the first primary takeaway, is none of this allows anyone to burn out of their prescription.
That's correct. The issue with the burn bans are, and most counties right now, Gregory County included, will allow you to burn. Our burn association is not affected by a burn ban. Fire departments are not affected by a burn ban. So all you have to do is ask permission, and if you have a reasonable burn plan, you'll be allowed to burn. So, and hopefully, most of the counties around us are doing the exact same thing.
Thank you, Brad. Regarding burn plans, I want to make sure that I do justice to this. Is a burn plan a legal document? You can scratch a burn plan on a napkin. You can scratch a burn plan on a piece of line paper, or you can go extreme and as formal as, say, the state of the feds, where it might be 100+ pages. But they all basically address 12 or 13 primary components. We're not going to, that's covered in our training sessions and stuff. But is it a legal document? And I think my practical advice to this room is that assume it is. Once you sign it, once you enact it, you are, if nothing else, you're making a contract with yourself. You're making a contract with yourself that says, I recognize what I had predetermined, pre-thought, premeditated for what's going to work. I need to use this thing to keep myself in check, to not allow myself to make too many compromises just to get the burn done, right? We're only a little bit above, 80 degrees or 75 degrees. Yeah, we said 20-mile-an-hour wind. It's only 30, We wanted to make sure we weren't going to burn over 25% humidity. It's 21, close enough. And when you start compounding factors like that and making those compromises, that's when you start getting into trouble. So think of that burn plan as a contract with yourself, and just assume if it exists, it can be used to protect you, and that's the way it should be used. But if you've compromised yourself, it could be used against you. Like you had a plan and you didn't stick to it, and now your neighbor got smoked, or, we smoked a highway, or worse, we lost a life. I'm not trying to scare anybody. We are very fire friendly, and we do an excellent job in South Dakota. These are just caveats, and I said, like I said, the most boring presentation. So, are we there?
Got a few more seconds.
Oh. Any other questions regarding law? Yeah, Kendall. Huh? Seconds.
You guys
Oh.
just do you want to touch quick on, say I'm a landowner and I want to burn, maybe I don't know much about it, don't have the equipment, whatever, so I call my local VFD or the Burn Coalition, whoever that may be. You want to touch on who is still in charge of that fire, who's the burn boss of that fire, and who still carries that liability and such?
Okay, that's a loaded question. Kara said we only have a couple seconds. Do I have time to answer this one? Or do you want to take
No,
it?
that might be best for a card.
For a card. Actually, yeah, Kendall, can we kick that to the end of the day? That's a great question, and it needs some deeper dive. So
So, thank you, Pete.